I have tried to formulate the thought of how important is it that we all, and I mean all, that do CrossFit do the open. All right. And I've stumbled upon, wanting to say, assertively, definitively, yes, we all do it. But I'm really getting to the place where I'm like,
that you can't just defend it anymore because it's CrossFit. You don't just defend CrossFit any longer because you don't know what it is anymore. They don't know what it is anymore. Nobody knows what it is anymore.
It's one of the things that maps the year, right? For CrossFit. Why wouldn't everyone do it?
There's no reason. It should be the thing you use to test yourself against whether or not the methodology is working.
Yo, the CrossFit Open has all of its workouts released. We get a full picture of what the programming looks like at this point, and it's going to complete a lot of people's seasons. The test is up, we can compare it to last year, we can compare it to the history of CrossFit, and it's going to give us a really good idea of what we can expect going forward. With that, I spoke recently, and it was at the end of a video, that I would never, ever, even if I could sign up for the Open, I would never do it again. I wouldn't do it, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I wouldn't sign up for it. I'm going to tell you why you should be able to make your own decision, because at this point in time, I see a lot of people tied to what they thought CrossFit was. And the only way that I can chalk this up to anything is a relationship, and people change over the course of time. You can decide to change with it, or you can make the decision to leave that relationship. Most people get stuck in it. They decide that it's easier to stay in that relationship, and everyone knows what that's been like. You've probably been there. I've been there. Everyone's been in that one where it's like you're just kind of there because it's what you're comfortable with. We all know and love CrossFit. But CrossFit's different. I'm going to use this video to tell you what's different about it, and I'm going to leave it up to you to make your own decision. I hear other people talking about it too, and remember that
I can do those things because I'm not a hero. Not like that.
People are thinking this. My first thought about it was when I was picked up, I was sitting in Julian's car and we were listening to the Open announcement, and the workout was released, and before it was released, you're just waiting for the inevitable, this is gonna hurt. First couple weeks came out, and frick, I repeated that running burpee workout 3 times, and it was just whatever. It was enjoyable to me. But there wasn't a workout this year where you just put your head down and you put every bit of effort into it and you're spat out the other end with whatever your score is. The one that comes to mind is that rowing and thruster workout, the 27, 21, 15, 9 with the lightweight barbell, and the only thing you do to get better is push harder. For the most part, for a lot of people, row faster, do the thrusters more unbroken, depending on what level you're at. That's what I thought was coming out this week. The workout's released, you look at it right away, and I think I'm limited by my strict handstand push-ups. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to do to get through that stuff and get a better score. I can't hurt harder. And then you think, is that what you're going to be coming to expect year after year after year? That's what I'm talking about, because everyone was in the comments section and they're all saying, we haven't had upper body pressing and there's going to be handstand push-ups, but you think, is it more important to have handstand push-ups and upper body pressing than it is to have a true test of what we thought CrossFit was? Remember, this is me putting my onus on it. I think there should be something long, something in the middle, and then something where it's going to hurt really bad if there are only 3 tests. And of course, there should be something where there is a limiter. And I've actually spoken in the past about how there's a possibility that the test became too skewed the other direction, where it is all hurt, 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 go faster. The only way you can do this is by cutting the movement standards. But this year, it seems as if the first test of the year was limited by maybe your ability to do ring muscle ups. The second test of the year was limited by your endurance, and not in the same sense as what I had just spoken of with that rowing and thruster test. It's just your endurance, which is fine. The third test is, of course, your maximal strength, and then this fourth test is limited by either your ability to lift that barbell or your ability to keep up with the upper body pressing work. There's a very few people who are going to be limited by what I'm going to call extreme CrossFit competency, where you look at the end of it and they're just rolling and writhing on the floor. Which brings me to a couple of people who have already brought this up, and I think I prefaced the entire video with the CrossFit Krypton podcast, where it goes, why would you sign up for the Open?
I have tried to formulate the thought of how important is it that we all, and I mean all, that do CrossFit do the Open.
Because what I remember, and what I remember preaching to everybody that has ever asked me, over the course of time, it's our test. Ben Smith says that right at the end of that bit. He goes,
the thing you use to test yourself against whether or not the methodology is working.
You run a mile here and you run a mile a year later, and if your mile time is faster, the runner knows that they have gotten better at running. They are fitter per their terms. our terms, which I heard on the Sevon podcast, have been kind of convoluted, skewed, and lost.
Other area that I'd say CrossFit is failing is in explaining what CrossFit is. I think Glassman's great contributions were defining fitness in a tangible way. We all know now what the CrossFit definition of fitness is. But what's the definition of CrossFit? Functional movements performed at high intensity. That's a terrible, terrible, inadequate definition, because with that definition, tell me why Orange Theory isn't CrossFit.
Everyone says constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity, and fucking hell, I've said it too. But leading up to this finale, there's that art, there's that piece that you know that you're like pining for. You really want it. Like, bring it on, let's go. We know it's coming, we're ready for it. It's the third week, let's go. We're gonna put everything into it, and then it's not what you expected. And that's what I heard from the CrossFit New York owner. He was the 6th affiliate owner ever, I believe he said, and he goes, how are we any different than Orange Theory? And we're not at this point, absolutely not. I mean, they're over there doing functional movements performed at relative high intensity, and they don't have anything behind it. They don't have nutrition lectures, and there are people all over the world still doing it right. So don't get me wrong, I know that there are still 11,000 affiliates out there, and they're still all doing it right, but they're doing it right for the reason in which I used to also tell my members to sign up. There is something here that we all believe in, something that comes from the top, and I've echoed this a couple of times recently with the Chipotle thing, with the way that Glassman used to lead everybody. You knew that there was a message to be heard, and everyone was giving the $20 be
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
You felt good about doing it. I'm going to sign up because I want my money to go to CrossFit, because I know that they're trying to do the best they can with what they can do. And at this point, you say there's 300,000 people who signed up for the Open. They made $6 million on this, but what are they going to do with it? What are they going to do with it? Are they going to hire more people to verify the Open a little bit so that it goes to what I thought the Open was, which was a great test?
The thing you use to test yourself against whether or not the methodology is working.
Final boarding announcement. All passengers on United Flight 1.
It sure as hell doesn't seem so. Is that $6 million going to go back to the affiliates in any way, shape, or form? I don't know. I haven't heard any affiliate owners come out to me and say that they're getting any help from CrossFit in any way that makes sense. I've actually heard the opposite. They'll go to these, what do you call it, where they all go to the same place and it's a summit. They go to these summits and they come back and they go, I didn't really pick up on anything from CrossFit. If anything, I picked up on something from another affiliate owner. And it's nuts. It's freaking nuts. But my point in all of this was I have that clip from CrossFit Krypton podcast, and there's a talk about why would you sign up for the CrossFit Open, because it is $20. You spend your money and then you're voting with your wallet. I put $50 into the CrossFit ecosystem this year. I signed myself up. I signed up and then I took the CrossFit Judges course. Next year, they get $0 from me. Number one, because I can't put my scores in. I guess I could have, but I didn't, because, you know, I'm on steroids. But even if I didn't, even if I couldn't, if I wasn't somebody who was trying to make it to the higher levels of competition, that being the quarterfinals and the semifinals and the games potentially, there's not a chance that I would put a dime into this ecosystem. What's the point? What would you do it for? What is it doing other than just giving them money? You're just giving them money. And that's always been the case to a degree. But you're giving money with principle to something that meant something. And at the bare minimum, if you couldn't wrap your head around that, or maybe you didn't agree with the ideals, then you could say that every single year it was to put yourself on that leaderboard so it'd be cool to see your progression or regression. And we don't even have that anymore. And that's where I'm stuck, and that's what I'm going to kind of base this video around of after that entire, what do you call it, I don't know, a preamble to what I'm talking about right here. So we have here the 2023 CrossFit Open as summarized by Andrew Hiller, who does
I don't know shit about fuck.
I compared it to my little lead up to the Open where I ranked every single year, and I gave the best rating overall to the 2020 CrossFit Open. I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why this is the worst CrossFit Open ever, and it's going to just show you, as I said in the beginning, what sort of relationship you're in. Is it time to get out? Can you make your own decision here? Or are you someone who's just like, I really want you to come back. Please come back. I know what you were. You're great. I loved you so much. Please. But you're different. They're changed. They're not going to come back. They've moved on. They're different. Realize that they're different, and here, let me help you. I don't want to do every single one of these boxes, but you can look at it and make kind of the decisions for yourself and see where I'm going with this. I will completely summarize it with 23.1 and 23.2a. So what you can see here is that I have it chalked up into little boxes. You've got the movements and you've got the limiters within those things, broken up into beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So the movements of 23.1a, as summarized by Andrew Hiller, who doesn't know anything about anything, you've got aerobic power, hanging gymnastics, low volume squatting, light to moderate pulling, and high skill skill, moderate volume gymnastics. The limiter for those things for the beginner are the hanging gymnastics, so they can get caught up in the toes to bar. That is just the hanging gymnastics portion of that workout. Just about every single one of them will get through the rower, the aerobic power component, and generally when you're a beginner, no one's making it through those toes to bar quickly. So maybe you get to the low volume squatting, but maybe you don't, and that's just where you are as a beginner. As an intermediate, it's CrossFit competency. Have you been in there for a while? Are you pretty well versed in all the movements? If you are, there's a good chance that you're going to get to the cleans, and at which point it becomes an aerobic test. You can do it, you're competent in it, and then it's just like, hey, where you at with your aerobic ability? If you're an advanced person, it's just CrossFit competency, and then it's aerobic, and then it's high skill, moderate volume gymnastics, because if you're pretty good at all the movements, well versed in them, you're going to continue on through them. If you've got a really good aerobic system, then you're going to get even further. If you're good at the high skill, moderate volume gymnastics, then you're probably even going to get back onto that rower. Again, it comes back to aerobic. And you can see that as it breaks down, this is kind of the way that I've always looked at open workouts. That, mind you, is a repeat workout from 2014, and I have written right there CrossFit competency twice with both the intermediate and the advanced categories. We look at 23.2a, which I think is the worst test of fitness of all time. The worst. It shouldn't be the worst, but it's the worst. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you look beginner, intermediate, advanced, you won't see CrossFit competency once, and that's okay. But it needs to be offset by something. And I see what happened here, which is you got 23.2b, which is a lift, and you got the big, strong, heavy movement, which is going to offset the aerobic endurance event, which was 23.2a, but it's not really an endurance test. For the beginning athletes, at least, it's an upper body fatigue test. Can you keep pressing yourself up off the floor, and can you keep pulling yourself up? So that's why when I put out that video, which is walking, you walk, because it's upper body pressing. And then when you get to the intermediate level, it's upper body fatigue plus your aerobic ability, because it's still a lot of freaking burpees, 70 to 105. I think they said that on the CrossFit Krypton Card. Everyone knows that when it comes out. You walk, and maybe if you walk, it allows you to get from 70 to 90. That's going to give you a better score, and that's what happened. It's clear as day. It makes a lot of sense. And then if you're an advanced athlete, it's still upper body fatigue plus your aerobic, but it's aerobic, and maybe you need to run this time. So where you're walking to bring yourself back to a base point, now you're running, and it's just like, how long can you run for? If you're really good, you run the entire time, and then you yield those scores into the 170s to 190 ranges that we saw. And that is not being offset by this lift, because there was no minimum work requirement on that first part. And I hear everybody saying that there should have been some sort of a window. Hey, make the bars ascending. That happened in the next workout. So what's the point of this lift? It shouldn't have even been there. There should have been no lift. And at which point there would have been people who maybe took it a little bit easier on that burpee portion, which makes me think of the 7-minute AMRAP of burpees from 2012, was it? The 2012 where everyone knows what you're getting, and that was its own test. And if you got Rich Froning out there getting 150 burpees, and he won the CrossFit Games that year, and he's getting beaten by a whole lot of people who just come on into your space and do a bunch of burpees, it's like, well, that is what it is, but everyone else is still also getting beaten. And then you're going to offset that later in its own test. But I think that it was a terrible idea to throw all those two things together without some sort of a minimum work requirement, because then in that case you're double whammying punishing the CrossFitters. It's just kind of a luck of the draw. Did you do worse on this one, or did you do worse on this one? Because there will be people in each realm that are going to maximize that output and then also maximize this output. And sure, you can have that ascending bar where you need to earn your way to get down the field, but I think if you minimize and just cut out the fluff and say, hey, you're doing burpees, which is the test by all means anyway, it's a burpee test, and everyone's aware of it, and you just say, hey, CrossFitters, Guy Malheiros, I beat him while walking. There's not a chance in hell that there should be a test where I walk it and beat him, but I bet that if you just gave Guy 7 minutes of burpees, and if the CrossFit Open meant something, let's say he had to make a regional, then that guy would try. He would probably yield a score of 160, 165, which would still keep him in contention to make a requisite regional. And the whole not trying thing and the open not mattering, it's an entire another layer to this deal. And I'm not really sure if I want to get into that. But what you can see here is that there is no CrossFit competency on point A, there is no CrossFit competency on point B, and then on 23.3, the most recent test, you look at advanced, you look at intermediate, you look at beginner, and not a single one of them has CrossFit competency. And the way that I chalk that up is you could be somebody who just comes into the space with a good snatch. Usually if you've got a good snatch, not usually, but a lot of the time, you can also knock out some strict handstand push-ups. Think Matt Fraser. Matt Fraser is someone who could probably have just walked in and freaking smoked this workout. Not being a CrossFitter, just being an Olympic weightlifter. I bet right now that dude could do this workout not having worked out in a year and get one of the top 10 best scores just because he's one of the best upper body pressers along with one of the best snatchers in the space. And he hasn't even worked out in a year if it were to be the case, which makes it a terrible test of fitness and certainly not what I was expecting, as I said. Now let me contrast that with what it looked like in 2021, and I'm just going to roll through this thing. In 20.1, you see CrossFit competency. You see it twice in both the beginner and the advanced. In 20.2, you see CrossFit competency in all 3 categories. In 20.3, you see CrossFit competency in only the advanced category, which is okay occasionally. All right, I said that already about the burpees. But then on 20.4, you see CrossFit competency in all 3. And then 20.5, you see CrossFit competency and again in only the final event. Now, let me explain what this is all about and why I even have extreme CrossFit competency, because on 20.1, you know, that's the 8 and 10 with the bar facing burpees and the snatches. If you're a beginner and you come into the space and you gotta do those things, the only way you're gonna get good at snatches, just even doing singles on them, is if you're in an affiliate. And sure, you could use the Frazier example that I said, but as an Olympic weightlifter, if you've got to do 10 rounds of that stuff, the exposure to the combination of the snatches and the burpees is the only way you're gonna get better at those 2 things. Sure, you're more likely to be a good weightlifter, but think about Dmitry Koklov and why he never excelled in the sport of CrossFit. He can snatch all day, any day of the week. He knows how to do it, but he also couldn't keep up on anything else, not one thing. So why I put CrossFit competency in the beginner thing is because you come on in, you learn how to snatch, and then all of a sudden you can do that workout. And if you do CrossFit, you're also going to build up your aerobic base, which would make you able to beat any other person anywhere else because you are a CrossFitter and you are a fit individual. And then when you look at the advanced category on 20.1, I have extreme CrossFit competency. And as I was making this, I was just kind of making it on a whim, but I go, wow, really, the only way that you're going to be really good at this is if you are a great CrossFitter. It's a lot of hinging, it's a lot of breathing, it's a certain pain threshold that we didn't touch upon it the whole 23 season so far, but you see at the end of the workout, people are on the ground, they're writhing, they're in pain. And that is kind of what we missed big time this year. And that's the question. Do we not have that anymore? Was there any thought about it? No one had that pain, right? And certainly the intro level CrossFit individuals, the beginners of the 23 season, didn't experience that pain. 20.2, the 20-minute AMRAP, which is supposed to look a lot like Cindy. The only way that you're going to be able to continuously move that thing, it's a very achievable amount of dumbbell thrusters, toes to bar, and rowing. Everybody can row. And if you're someone who just started off, it's a 20-minute workout where you're just kind of scooting your way through it. You're just moving, you're moving, you're moving. Dumbbell thrusters, we figured that out week 3. Toes to bar, you figured it out after a couple of weeks. You can do 6, make your way through 6, get on the rower, rinse, recycle, repeat. CrossFit is the way that you would develop that, and a beginner can do it. And then when we look at the advanced individual, it's how much can you keep that up. So I have your aerobic control. Can you keep yourself at whatever level you need to keep yourself out over the course of time? And then also, have you prioritized transitions? How long have you been in the space? What's your CrossFit IQ? It's extreme CrossFit competency. And I can do this all day, but I think that it's also worth me checking out 20.4. It's the box jump, clean and jerk, pistol, clean and jerk workout from that season. And you've got CrossFit competency in the beginning, you've got it in the intermediate, and you've got it in the advanced. And it's a cool test of strength because in the intro levels, people are going to get stuck a lot of the time with their ability to just keep up with the movements. You got this workout, you got the ascending weights, and if you keep up and you do CrossFit, you are a CrossFitter who has been to an affiliate and gone through the pieces that have gotten you to this point in time, you can probably also do the box jumps with a couple of the weights. If you want to get better at it, you're going to have to get a little bit stronger, and you'll see that in the intermediate level. And if you want to be the best CrossFitters, think Jeffrey Adler, who smashed that workout. He's going to be able to do the pistols as well, which I have written in here as a control, strength, and mobility exercise in the space. It's new. It's something that you only have if you were a high-level person or a mobile person or someone who's put the work in to get that movement. And then the stronger you are, the further you get along on that workout. And if I want to rewind and wrap this entire thing up, we look at 2023. You only see CrossFit competency, and mind you, as I was writing this, it was just up to down. I make a video a day. I'm still doing it. I don't know if I've tied myself to that quite for this year, but it's not like I checked, rechecked, and thought about it other than I was just writing it up and I go, oh hey, you gotta be good at CrossFit to do this workout. And with that process, 23.1 was the only workout where I thought that you had to be good at CrossFit to do it. But I also thought it's the only one that, from what I understood CrossFit was from having done it since 2013. Maybe there's a new CrossFit, there's a new way, there's a new sense of it. And that's where I started this thing out with. Do you want to be part of it? The person that you're in a relationship, they've changed. You can stay there and be miserable with them. You can accept them for who they are and continue on, but it's always good to see it as it's coming. And again, as I said at some point in here, this is not on Bosman, but you need to realize that you can't just defend it anymore because it's CrossFit. You don't just defend CrossFit any longer, because when we defended CrossFit, when you gave $20 to CrossFit, you believed in the message. There is no message. It's what I've been saying. When you see the stuff that I put up with Chipotle, they don't even know what CrossFit is anymore. You hear that from the people who have been around in the space the longest, the person who owns CrossFit New York.
The other area that I'd say CrossFit is failing is in explaining what CrossFit is.
You hear from the people who have the podcast that everyone should be listening to because they know what it was like. They had an understanding even better than mine. The CrossFit Krypton podcast of the world, where they say, should you sign up? Why do you sign up? It's because every year it's a test of fitness.
Please proceed to gate D.
But in order for it to be a test of fitness, it has to be similar. It doesn't have to be the same. You shouldn't see where it's coming. And that was actually one of the most beautiful things about the way that Castro would program and what we all became used to. Everyone's like, well, here we go. We're going to have some handstand push-ups. And then it would be something completely unexpected. You've never seen it before, and it's usually kind of leaving you wanting. I remember that happened when they released the repeat 21-18-15-12-9-6-3 workout, or final workout that year. Everyone thought it was going to be something crazy with all this confusing stuff. But what it ended up being was Ben Smith, Matt Fraser, Rich Froning at the wrench doing a workout that everyone thought was just, what? This is boring. But what it was best CrossFitters in the world pushing to do the best that they could on a workout that only CrossFitters could do well at from what we understood CrossFit was. We don't know what it is anymore. They don't know what it is anymore. Nobody knows what it is anymore. Is it really something that you want to pay your money towards? Here's another time where I'm going to say, hell no. Don't sign up for the CrossFit Open next year. If you are signing up for the CrossFit Open and you've seen this video and you've heard the things that I've said and you've got a reason to sign up, and I will not listen to you say that it's to support the brand and the methodology, because there is no brand and methodology any longer. And if you don't see it, you're just stuck in that relationship. You see the person for what they were, but they are no longer that person, and that's all that I have to say about that. And Riller, out.